Have you ever imagined that one day the place you were born, grew up, and proudly called home might disappear? Not because of war, not due to some historic tragedy, but because the sea is slowly swallowing. Every inch of land, forests are being stripped bare for short-term profits, and typhoons are growing fiercer with each passing rainy season. Just at the end of last year, 3 consecutive storms took the lives of over 160 people and forced more than 9 million to flee their homes. Those numbers aren't just statistics, they're warnings of what could come next. 2025 won't just be another year. It could be the breaking point for many provinces in the Philippines, places where life is hanging by a thread. And the scariest part, most of us have no idea. In this video, we're going to explore 10 provinces in the Philippines that are at high risk of collapse in 2025. Some names you might expect, but others might leave you shocked. If you care about this country's future, or if you're simply wondering, is my province on the list? Then stay with us till the end and let us know your thoughts in the comments. Let's begin. Number 10, Isabela. If you've ever passed through the rural north of the Philippines, you've probably seen endless rice fields stretching all the way to the horizon. That's Isabela province, once hailed as the nation's rice granary, where every grain is the result of hard work by resilient farmers. People here live simply. They wake up at 4 a.m., grab their hoes, and wade barefoot into the mud to tend to their paddies. Every harvest is a celebration, not just for the few extra pesos, but because it means they've survived another unpredictable season. But then came typhoon-ravaged at the end of 2024, and it took everything away. Winds gusting up to 185 kilometers per hour tore down hundreds of homes and submerged nearly 70% of the lowland rice fields. Levees were breached, rivers overflowed, and the crops people had cared for all season were washed away in muddy water. The rice didn't even get a chance to bloom. It was buried in sludge. A failed harvest doesn't just mean hunger, it means falling deeper into debt. Mr. Ernesto, 62, has lived in Isabela his whole life. He said, "I've never seen the water rise that fast and that strong. We only had time to carry the grandkids out before the roof collapsed." He and his wife are now living in a makeshift tent by the roadside, alongside hundreds of others waiting for relief. What's heartbreaking is that this isn't the first time Isabela has faced natural disasters. But this time feels different. Not just because the weather is harsher, but because the preparation was almost non-existent. Many areas still lack early warning systems, strong levees, or any effective relocation plans. When we talk about climate change, Isabela is a real-life example, but this isn't just about weather. It's about people, those clinging to the last patch of land they have left, even as everything around them slowly disappears. The question is, will we continue to let them fight this battle alone, or will we finally step up before Isabela becomes just another name in the history books? Number 9, Cagayan. Cagayan was once known as the land of wind and water, a place where winding rivers carved their way through fields of corn and rice, and kids would swim freely during the rainy season as part of a peaceful childhood. But the rains are no longer gentle. In just the last 2 months of 2024, 3 powerful typhoons, Yingxing-Taraji and Usagi, slammed into northern Philippines. Cagayan took a brutal hit. Over 160 lives were lost across the region, and 9 million people were forced to evacuate. These numbers might feel distant to some, but for the people of Cagayan, they're not just figures, they're the names of loved ones, neighbors, even themselves. The Santa Ana Elementary School, where Rowena used to teach, is now just a twisted metal frame buried in mud and debris. "I don't know where I'll be teaching next year. The whole village had to evacuate. None of my students are still here," she said, eyes red from crying. The province's levee system was already weak, and now it's on the brink of collapse. The Cagayan River, the longest in the country, no longer flows calmly. It swells with rage, threatening to consume everything in its path. Homes built from thin wood and corrugated roofs last only hours against fierce winds. Every time a storm hits, residents have to abandon everything, possessions, crops, even farmland, just to make it to an evacuation center. What's shocking is this isn't new, but it's getting worse. Cagayan isn't just facing climate change, it's also suffering from poor disaster management. Many areas haven't even been surveyed for flood risk, temporary levees, delayed warnings, slow relief efforts. It's a dangerous pattern. If Isabella is the cracking rice bowl, then Cagayan is the front line trying to hold back the flood. But the real question is, how much longer can the front line hold when a teacher loses her classroom, when children no longer have a school to return to? That's not just a natural disaster, that's the loss of an entire generation's future. Number 8, Dinagat Islands. There was a time when Dinagat Islands felt like a peaceful corner of the world, quiet, untouched, and in harmony with nature. The people here lived simply paddling boats by day to fish, gathering around oil lamps at night to share stories about the sea and the forest. To them, the forest wasn't just a source of income, it was part of the island's soul. Every morning, Andres, a nearly 70-year-old fisherman, would row through thick mangrove forests, glancing up at the lush green hills he called the island's lungs. We only take what we need. He used to say, the rest we leave to nature. But then everything changed. One day, nickel mining operations rolled in. Heavy machinery tore through the earth. Forests were flattened by the hectare. Red sludge ran down the streams and into the sea. The water turned murky. The fish began to vanish. The tropical rainforest, the island's natural lungs, started to disappear, leaving behind dry, exposed land and lifeless air. In just the last 3 years, nearly 1,500 hectares of old-growth forest have been wiped out. Amphibians and native bird species have declined sharply. Indigenous communities have been forced to leave as their water sources became contaminated with heavy metals. Nature is gasping for air, and so are the people. The provincial government once promised a balance between development and conservation, but when multi-million peso mining deals were signed, those promises were buried under gray rock and dust. The profits, they went to a few. The costs, disease, poverty, and a lost way of life were left to the people. Dinagat now feels like an island that once breathed but is slowly falling silent. The question is, can it still be saved, or will Dinagat become yet another example of how far humanity can harm nature and walk away as if nothing happened? Number 7, Negros Occidental. There's a mountain in central Negros Occidental that locals speak of with both familiarity and reverence, Canlan. To them, Canlan isn't just a volcano, it's a guardian ancient and powerful. For years, Canlan emitted only gentle wisps of smoke, as if to remind everyone I'm still awake. Then, in early 2024, it suddenly roared. For the first time in over a decade, Canlan erupted violently, shooting ash more than 3,000 meters into the air. Multiple eruptions followed in the months ahead, shaking the entire western Visayas region. More than 87,000 people had to evacuate from danger zones. Farmlands were blanketed in black ash water. Sources were contaminated and crops withered under the acidic air. Sugarcane farmers, the backbone of the province's agriculture, suffered heavy losses with entire harvests wiped out. Domestic sugar prices plunged, while land restoration costs skyrocketed up to over P80,000 per hectare. Mr. Delphin, a 58-year-old farmer in La Carlota, shared, "I've lived with Mount Canlan all my life. I know it can get angry." But this time it didn't just flare up, it simmered prolonged, unrelenting. He and his family have relocated to a temporary shelter near Bacolod, where clean water, electricity, and hope are all in short supply. The story of Negros. Occidental reminds us not all disasters come from the sea. When the earth itself stirs, what once felt stable can turn to ash overnight. Sadly, while coastal provinces are prioritized in climate change, response plans, places like Negros facing geological risks, are often forgotten on the national hazard map. Canlan is still there, beautiful and terrifying. But if we continue to look away, the next thing it erupts may not just be ash, but a final warning. Number 6, Aurora. Aurora is where lush mountains meet the Pacific Ocean. For generations, its people have lived in harmony with untouched nature. The Sierra Madre forest to the west, the vast sea to the east, winds blowing year-round, and sunlight stretching across endless sandy shores. Each year, hundreds of coastal families await fishing season, while upland communities grow bananas, coffee cassava, and traditional vegetables. Aurora was once a place people came to seek peace. But today, that very peace is under threat quietly but fiercely. In November 2024, typhoon-ravaged made landfall in Aurora from the sea, bringing up to 450 millimeters of rain in just 24 hours. Water rushed down from the mountains while the ocean surged inland. Dozens of concrete bridges were destroyed, and roads leading to Bala were completely cut off for days. The province was nearly isolated. No power, no phone signal, no supplies. In the village of Dipakulao, 66-year-old ailing Teresa said her family received no assistance during the first 6 days after the storm. "We survived on dry rice and rainwater. If my son hadn't paddled out to find help, we might not be here. Aurora's biggest problem isn't typhoons, they come every year. It's the near-zero capacity to respond." Many parts of the province still lack sturdy flood defenses, alternate evacuation routes, or early warning systems. People live between the forest and the sea, but there's no barrier between them and disaster. Aurora is like a quiet island on land. Each year it takes another blow from nature, and each year those wounds accumulate without healing. Let's not wait until Aurora is completely isolated by weather and forgotten by policy to realize even the most peaceful places can become the most vulnerable. Number 5, Palawan. Palawan, just the name conjures paradise, a place where the sea is so clear you can see every tiny fish darting between coral reefs, where mangroves, crystal waterfalls, and seaside towns make you want to stay forever. For Filipinos, Palawan isn't just a destination, it's a source of pride, a reminder that nature can be unbelievably beautiful, but beauty, if left unprotected, can be worn away. In 2025, Palawan is facing an unprecedented environmental crisis. In the past decade, tourist numbers have surged by nearly 400%. El Nido, Coron, Port Barton, once gems of the Philippines, are now overcrowded. Resorts, lodges, and restaurants line the coast, clearing mangrove forests for space and dumping waste directly into the ocean. In 2024 alone, over 190 hectares of mangroves were cut, ecosystems that once acted as natural shields against storm surges and high waves. Waters in famous tourist bays have turned murky. Corals have bleached due to pollution and excessive diving. Native fish populations are noticeably shrinking. Mr. Rene, a traditional fish farmer in Taytay, said, "The sea isn't the same anymore. Fewer fish, murky waters, trash everywhere. We're not against tourism, but the way it's happening now, it's killing Palawan." What's the root problem? Unchecked development conservation policies can't keep up with construction. Environmental laws are bypassed by massive investment projects, and local communities are left out of the decision-making process. Palawan is still beautiful, but it's a fragile beauty like delicate glass. If we don't change our approach and pause to reflect, paradise may soon become a painful lesson in the trade-off between progress and destruction. Would you want to bring your child to Palawan 10 years from now and have to say, "It used to be beautiful here"? Number 4, Sulu. From above, Sulu looks like a string of pearls scattered across the sea, small, charming islands, turquoise waters, and coral reefs stretching for miles. It was once known as one of the world's richest marine ecosystems, but not everyone has the courage to visit Sulu. For years, it's been among the most security-challenged regions in the country. Armed groups move through the area, pirates lurk offshore, and low-level violence is a constant worry. Its stunning reefs don't attract tourists, but poachers of coral and rare fish. This has forced the local economy to rely heavily on marine extraction in a context where weak law enforcement means survival often comes at the cost of environmental destruction. Fishermen use explosives, mangroves are cut for charcoal, and massive swaths of marine life are irreparably damaged. In 2024, a report from a local environmental group revealed over 60% of coral reefs around the Sulu archipelago are dead or severely degraded. Rising sea levels are pushing coastal fishing villages further inland. And when the sea no longer offers fish and the land erodes away, there's simply nowhere left to go, Elder Village. Chief Mr. Hakim, now over 70, said bitterly, "My Sulu has everything except peace. When the sea is calm, the land is restless." Sulu's problem isn't just one thing. It's a mix of social unrest, poverty, overexploitation, and neglect in national development policies. There's no single knot to untie. What we need is a long-term comprehensive approach and a real presence of government, not just on paper. If not, Sulu will continue to drift not off the map, but from the memory of this nation. a place once gifted with everything slowly losing it all because no one truly stayed to protect it. Number 3, Leyte. When people hear the name Leyte, many immediately think of Tacloban, the city that was almost entirely flattened by Super Typhoon Haiyan in 2013. More than a decade has passed, and while the world has largely moved on, the scars Haiyan left behind have never truly healed. And sadly, 2025 may be the year those scars are torn open once again. Leyte is among the most vulnerable provinces to climate change. With its low-lying coastal terrain and extensive shoreline, even a few centimeters of sea level rise has already salinated thousands of hectares of rice paddies, coconut groves, and homes. Many farmers have abandoned their lands, unable to grow anything but seaweed, something that can't sustain their families. In the past 3 years, meteorologists have warned that Leyte lies directly in the path of new super typhoons, with winds expected to reach up to 200 kilometers per hour. Despite new dikes built after Haiyan, not all areas are protected. And even Tacloban, a city rebuilt with much effort, is now witnessing rapid infrastructure decline. The real concern is that while locals adapt day by day, many support policies remain stuck on paper. Resettlement zones lack electricity, schools, and livelihood opportunities. People don't want to leave their hometowns, but staying means living in fear. Leyte isn't just a disaster hotspot. It's a symbol of the Filipino spirit. But without proper investment, if we continue to let Leyte fend for itself, another storm will eventually come and sweep away what little hope remains. Number 2, Batanes. At the northernmost tip of the Philippines, Batanes feels like another world. Rolling green hills stretch endlessly, Ivatan stone houses nestle into the mountainsides, and the air is always cool and gentle, earning it the nickname the peaceful paradise of the country. The Ivatan people live simply, humbly, and deeply connected to their land and sea. They build stone homes to withstand typhoons, grow garlic, onions, and root crops on slopes, and fish using small wooden boats. Everything in Batanes is just enough, never too much or too little, a reflection of their centuries-old respect for nature. But peace doesn't mean invincibility. Due to its location, Batanes sits directly in the path of massive Pacific storms. Each year it is battered by an average of 8 to 10 typhoons, an astounding number for a province with just over 18,000 residents. And the storms aren't just more frequent, they're getting stronger. Typhoon Ferdy in 2024 was a stark example. With gusts nearing 220 kilometers per hour, it tore off roof tiles, collapsed stone walls, and left the fishing village of Itbayat completely isolated for 4 days after landslides blocked its only road. Communication systems went dark. Aid couldn't get through. Ms. Elena, a primary school teacher, said, "When the wind rises here, people stay indoors not out of fear, but habit." But last year was different. For the first time, my entire house shook like a paper box. What's more terrifying is not knowing how many more times it will happen. Batanes remains resilient, just like its people. But resilience shouldn't mean abandonment. Fragile infrastructure, limited disaster response, and the growing risk of isolation after each storm are turning one of the Philippines' most precious cultural and natural symbols into something alarmingly vulnerable. Without a long-term protection plan and real investment one day, Batanes may exist only in postcards and memories. Number 1, Manila. Manila, the heart of the Philippines. The political, economic, and cultural center, a place buzzing with cars, lights, and dreams of a better life. But even here, where people feel safest, lies a looming risk of total collapse faster than most would imagine. Metro Manila is home to nearly 14 million registered residents, not counting the millions of unregistered migrants. The breakneck pace of urbanization has stretched its infrastructure to the limit. Every heavy rain now floods streets like rivers, outdated drainage systems, unregulated housing, and sprawling slums beside dark canals. This is a ticking time bomb waiting to go off when the next big storm or flood hits. According to the Metropolitan Development Authority, more than 3 million people live in areas highly at risk of flooding, landslides, or saltwater intrusion. A 1-meter sea level rise, entirely possible within the next few decades, could displace hundreds of thousands of families. And who will take responsibility for that? Ms. Christina, who lives in Tondo, shares, Whenever it rains, hard water floods into our house. My child has to stand on a chair just to attend online class because the floor is knee-deep in water. That's not some remote village that's the capital city. The biggest issue isn't just the climate, it's the delay in action. Plans for infrastructure upgrades, relocating at-risk communities, and sustainable housing remain in draft form. Meanwhile, the city keeps building upward, even as the ground beneath weakens daily. Manila won't sink overnight. But if we don't act today, that day will come not with a bang, but with the silence of our inaction. Every province you've just seen isn't just a dot on a map. They are homes to people fighting each day against disasters, poverty, and neglect. From Isabela to Manila, from oceans to volcanoes. Threats are closer than ever. If we keep ignoring them, these places could be lost forever. But if we speak up and act together, there's still a chance to make a difference. Which province do you think needs emergency aid the most? Have you experienced something similar? Share your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Bizarre World Adventures to catch more real stories and different perspectives about the world we live in. See you in the next video.